It's not a regret, it's not a mistake. What I learned is you have to trust yourself. So when you don't have the answers, go inside and trust your intuition more. And perhaps you're wrong, and perhaps you're right. But I think that you will never regret having listened to your intuition and gone for it, even when you're wrong.
This is where it all begins. So say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we come to win, we come to fly. This is where we make our dreams come to life. Welcome to Innovation City.
Welcome to Innovation City, a podcast featuring the innovators, creators, and disruptors who are changing the way that business happens. My name is Tyler Kelly. I'm here with my co-host Leanne Buchanan.
Hey, everybody.
And we're really excited because today we're joined by Gabriela Sabate.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Did I say that correctly?
You said it perfectly.
Okay.
So, Gabriela, super excited to have you on, and I've been a big fan of yours. You are founder and CEO of Health Semantics, and we're going to talk a little bit about your company and your background, and you've got so much experience. We're going to unpack that. But I like for us to start off the conversation talking about you as a person. And so why can't you just tell us, what are you passionate about? What invigorates you? What sets you on fire? What are you passionate about?
Thank you for the question. And in thinking about a passion, I've had many passions in different points of my life, but I could say that one thing is now, ever since I founded Health Semantics, and that's the reason why I founded Health Semantics, was, I had come to a point in my career with a certain number of years in experience in different fields. And at the same time, I wanted to find a field of relevance where I could have an impact. So to me, it's like joining the technology side of me with the healthcare side of me. I'm a big healthcare fan. And I just cemented that with a master's program that I just finished. So I'm a 2020 graduate.
Congratulations!
Thank you. So joining those two things, technology and the possibility of making an impact in people's lives, changing things that are big or important to me, in the fraction of my impact, the impact that I can do. But trying to push that and trying to unroll that experience and share it as much as I can in changing to a small or to a big measure something in people's lives. That's good.
So you have experience in the technology sector, a varied experience that we'll talk about. Yeah. But what is it about health? And I know you previously had experience with a biotechnology company as well. But what is it about the health industry or niche that attracts you? Do you have a personal experience that kind of made a light switch flip on that made you say, this is what I want to focus on?
Well, for one, I grew up, my dad was a doctor, and he co-founded a hospital at one point, and my uncle is a doctor. So I grew up in a family of doctors and exposed to healthcare, and my dad was an OBGYN. So the quality time that I had with my dad many times was in the delivery room or in the C-section or things like that, all full of masks and that. But sharing those moments with him. So the happiness, the stress, also the days he wasn't able to share with us as a family because he was working so much, and but I could see ultimately, the baby or the happy mother or, the transitions and how he could hold hands of people and move them along and help them along, and they loved them. So I think that had a lot to do with, with that little spark. On the other hand, as I moved into different areas of tech and experience and countries as well, and came to live here in Miami, there are so many things that you can see that you can improve or make a difference with technology. For example, in helping people design better ways to eat or make the right choices for their healthcare, or when doing exercise, or help them along those patient journeys. I think there's a big role of technology in that, and And definitely, I wanted to join those two things and be able to. There's also another thing, which is in healthcare it's a highly regulated industry, so it's solutions don't flow as fast or as in an optimal way as you would like. So being able, you see some things some paradigms that are still to this day older looking, and changing that, coming from faster development fields, it seems easier. It's not, because once you get into that, it's very difficult to push the frontiers of the regulations and make things happen through red tape. And some regulations are obviously very good that they're there because they are to protect patients and the whole practice of medicine. But others, you feel you can have a different angle to them and make things simpler and more effective and less costly, which is
always important.
Yeah.
So I want to take an interesting approach on walking through your background and experience. You've had a long career in venture creation, whether it's on the investor side, whether it's on the founder side, whether it's on maybe the entrepreneurial leadership side in a large technology company. So could you tell us your top 3 takeaways from 3 different roles that you've held? Because your resume is so long. So just pick 3, and maybe what's the one takeaway from each of those top 3 roles that you've held in the past?
Well, one takeaway when I was in SoftBank, for example, talking about these two sides of the investment table, no? When I was in SoftBank, I found a territory at that time. It was in the 2000s, in the first internet boom. We had a $150 million fund for Latin American companies, and also we analyzed and invested in a couple of in several. We invested over 50% of our disbursements in the fund in Miami, in the Miami area, and in some Latin-backed ventures of founders. And so one of the takeaways there was that I saw this big gap happening between the talent and the eagerness of entrepreneurs from all walks of life and their ability to get to the capital. So I think that I tried to be at that time, a little bit of a simple to access person. And I was not able to answer all the emails for sure, because we were flooded with emails and calls. But yes, I did not like that difficult to access kind of personality in the venture capital world. And I didn't come from that, because I came from building companies, from operating companies in technology, not from venture capital from the beginning. So I tried to stay close to what I had experienced building companies, no? And so I got all these comments. Oh, you're so nice to be a venture capitalist, because it was accessible, basically. Yeah. Other than the limitations of reading all the emails, So that's one takeaway. Stay close to the entrepreneurs and their moments, their problems, their challenges, the markets that change around them, and sometimes even their loneliness. Try to be there and see how you can help build. So it's the building. It's about the building and about the connection. So another would be being at Health Semantics, for example, like founding Health Semantics. What I would say there, I take a big takeaway was it's great to have vision, but sometimes if you go too far in the vision, and I think I heard, because we were thinking of, for example, I named the software Kathy, and it was the form of a woman. This was before Siri or Alexa or any of those concepts and names existed. So it was in 2011. And so the platform, it's a platform for early detection and follow up of chronic diseases. So with the platform, it includes a piece of software accessible through the web or a smartphone or a basic SMS phone. So it doesn't need to be a smartphone. And the idea was that this software learned as it had more and more patients in the system, and we named this piece of software that accompany patients Kathy, which was a woman. It's a mix of a doctor or a healthcare worker and a mom and somebody who cares. So your friend. So it was a little bit of all of these, and it was a little like too early if you think about it. We had some AI concepts into it. In 2011, it was a little bit out there, the vision. So what I would think was, or what a takeaway from that time was align the vision with the times, or with the market. Like doing that product market fit is important, because otherwise you will be developing too much into a market that's not ready to absorb it, or not ready to pay for it. Because the challenge there was, we were ahead also in the payment systems from within the healthcare side. So payments were not yet crafted or designed to pay in advance or to pay for prevention. So, still to this day, there's some prevention being done after the Affordable Care Act, and in other countries. We did a lot of work, mostly in Mexico, with Health Semantics, but so payments were not there yet either. And sometimes, so you're building a company, and at the same time you have to build other parts of the ecosystem in order to be successful. That's a huge task. So I would say pay attention to all the variables and align the vision, which is great, and it can be, but pay attention to the roadblocks or align them better so as to have more of a smooth transition there.
So, being in health and in tech, I think that a lot of the regulations that you spoke of were all pre-tech. How does that, entire industry transform, or how can we transform it in a world where things happen instantly? That's a great question, and a very difficult one as well. And sometimes, for example, now during this time, during the time of COVID and the pandemic, what happened was many of those regulations fell, even when they fell temporarily. It's not a permanent perhaps solution, or it will be evaluated if they're here to stay. But so many of those things changed in a second, forced by the circumstance. So that is an excellent proof. For example, telemedicine, and also licenses that have to do. Also, the regulation has to do with, you have a healthcare related license in one state, you cannot practice medicine in another state. But then, if there is the need, you can bypass. And it's happened that people from out of state have gone to New York to help, or are coming to Florida to help. Right. So, or I can have a healthcare visit using telemedicine, linking up with a doctor or a hospital in Seattle, perhaps, and we can do cross-state, cross-boundary. So those things are for now temporary, but it's interesting because the technology is there to do them, and they have come down during a moment of need. So we'll see how this evolves, but it's what's happening due to these things is fascinating in a sense of regulation adjustment, or adapting regulations, as well as knowledge production, and scientific production, which has been amazing. I've never witnessed something like that, And on the other hand, we're facing challenges that are bigger than all of this as well. So we have to be wise about everything.
Well, one of the questions that I had was around selection. So you have undoubtedly worked with probably some dynamic, amazing teams.
Yeah.
As a founder, as an investor in larger corporate environments. Talk to us a little bit around how you select and identify the right talent for something that is intense, high growth, and really fast-paced work?
Mm-hmm. Also a great question and difficult one.
I know.
I think if you come from the corporate side, when I was in IBM, in big corporations like IBM in Central America or South America, for example, there sometimes the teams, you can't get a say in selecting a team unless you're starting, which I focused quite a bit on this, on starting new ventures within big corporations. So being like an entrepreneur, then you at least get a say to build your team with people from inside, or sometimes you're lucky enough that you get to hire people from outside as well. So I think that it depends on what you're building. If it's a high growth, like more entrepreneurial venture, I would say that first you have to get out of your comfort zone of selecting people that are similar to you. In the sense they can be similar to you in some areas. I think that the best teams have some shared core of values. For example, if values are important for what you're doing, which for example in healthcare there is a lot of values, or in impact. We did a lot of work with community health workers. So people that you need in those teams need to share, that commitment or those visions, and try to think about some core values, about a shared vision. The team needs to, at least partially, even if they're doing a small task or a very predefined or well-defined task within the whole, even then I think that it's important for them to see the big picture and share the big picture with everyone. I think that another important characteristic is for people to be flexible, and also it also depends, and I want to make this comment because it depends at what stage in a company building you are at.
Yeah.
If you're at the beginning, you need people, and this is another thing that motivates me a lot, is the feeling I'm in some sort of mission impossible. No, like
you're like,
yeah, yes, let me carry on my we're gonna get this. No, that feeling of the mission impossible, we will get it against all the odds, and of that, and you need a certain personality or type for that. But then as the business grows and hopefully scales and develops and grows, then perhaps you have to start professionalizing and putting some procedures in place and getting everything more the house in order. And sometimes at that point the team needs to change a bit.
Yeah.
And some founders can go out and do another of those mission impossibles, or you continue transition into those roles, and sometimes the teams start having different compositions, or people change. No?
Yeah, I think it's important, in driving home to what you said, is the team has to match the why of the moment, right? Why
Exactly.
are you doing this work in this moment?
Exactly.
I don't think the vision ever changes, but the priority and the focus and the goals
Exactly.
change. And I always think, for me, I'm a big student of human behavior and leadership and team building. And I also think that what you said about values, that alignment around values, I think it's so important. With the team that I have now, we have the same alignment around how can we serve, how can we help, which relates intra and inter. So who we serve, but also how we serve each other. And so that concept of value alignment means that you're going to be hiring for fit. And fit is not just a function of competence, but it's also a function of character.
Exactly.
Definitely.
You put it beautifully. I'm going to borrow from that. But Leanne, that's exactly on point. So yes, I completely share your take on that. I think it's being in the why with a certain global or bigger umbrella, under a bigger umbrella, but concentrate on the why, and also you have to think of people, especially at the beginning, who don't feel uncomfortable when the why changes a bit.
Yeah.
So they don't feel that we're this is failing. We need to do something different. I'm quitting, no? So it's like, the why can change. Relax. It's not a big deal. The whole vision may not, or the big vision may not. It can change a bit as well. It's not that it's set in stone, but
that's great.
I think that time.
It is that time. Did we tell her about the lightning round?
The lightning round.
Are you ready?
Quick, rapid fire questions and answers.
One word?
You start.
It's your call.
Yeah, you can give more than one word.
Okay.
Here we go. If you could run your own country, what would it be like?
That's a difficult. You started with the most difficult one. Would it be like independence but collaboration?
Oh, I love that. This one's fun. So, Gabriela, what question would you ask a fortune teller?
The real question.
Yeah, just say. What question would you ask?
Fortune teller, are we going to be better in 20 years as a society or as a global society?
That's great.
What did you learn from your biggest regret?
I would say it's not a regret, it's not a mistake. What I learned is even you have to trust yourself. So when you don't have the answers, go inside and see if you can, like, if your inside can tell you, like, intuition. No, trust your intuition more, and perhaps you're wrong, and perhaps you're right. But I think that you will never regret having listened to your intuition and gone for it, even when you're wrong. So that's something that I learned.
Yeah, that's great. I think sometimes we look at external validators and external locus of control rather than, to your point, going inward. Okay, last question. What or who are you grateful for?
I think I'm grateful for life, and with that comes everything. So lightning is life. My kids, my family, my societies, my husband, my mom, my dad. So it's all of my different circles that make my life.
Well, Gabriela, thank you for joining us. This has been such a fun conversation. I don't think we've had a chance to sit down like this before, so this has been really great. So thank you.
And I love I'm going to borrow those phrases. So thank you so much. You gave me the theoretical framework to think so many things.
Awesome.
Before we let you go, how can people get in touch with you on social media?
Social media,
websites.
LinkedIn,
Yeah, sure.
Gabriela Sabate. You can find me there. Twitter, at GSABATE. Those more.
Perfect.
TikTok, I'm working on it.
Oh, so you gotta show us your TikTok moves.
TikTok star.
Through my daughter, we're like dancing. No, just a joke. Mostly, Facebook, Instagram, those places. Gabi Sabate in Instagram, so I can be found there.
Wonderful. Thank you for being with us. It's been fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Innovation City. If you like this episode, you can find more episodes at innovationcity.co or anywhere where you watch or listen to podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, and review, and we'll see you next week.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we